The Millionaire, the Black Beggar, and Elon Musk meet Donald Trump. David stood just outside the glass tower that scraped the sky like a blade. New York buzzed all around him, horns blaring, heels clicking, shouts cutting through the endless rush. His suit was crisp, his watch gleaming like a trophy. In less than an hour, his speech would hit the stage, a moment that could make or break everything. The city smelled of ambition and sweat, dollars and danger. This was his kingdom now. But then something strange happened. Out of the crowded sidewalk appeared a man no one seemed to notice. Marcus. His clothes were tattered, his skin darker than the shadows in the alleyways. Face streaked with grime, eyes sharp like broken glass. He looked at David like he saw right through the millionaire's perfect mask. "You're about to sell a dream nobody can buy," Marcus said quietly, voice rough but steady. "But what happens when that dream burns out?" "What then?" David blinked, caught off guard as a knot tightened in his chest. Around them, people kept moving, avoiding Marcus like he was invisible, a ghost haunting the shiny streets. But David couldn't shake the weight of those words. His hands trembled behind his back. He wanted to tell Marcus to move on, to stop messing with his mind. But something in the man's gaze held him. There was no pity, only cold truth. Marcus had been an attorney once, someone who played the game at the highest level, crushing rivals with laws and deals. But a scandal ripped that life away, threw him out into the cold, naked streets of New York. "What do you want from me?" David asked, voice low, heart racing. Marcus shrugged, pulling a ragged jacket tighter. "Just a moment, a question. What's success if it costs you your soul?" David's mind exploded. Memories slammed in, late nights stealing deals, promises broken, friends lost under the weight of greed. He squared his shoulders, but the air felt thinner, colder. Then just like that, a sudden flicker of recognition flashed between them. Marcus said the name, the one David barely breathed aloud. The scandal that had haunted his family for years. They shared a past, tangled in secrets and lies deeper than either had fought. The city around them seemed to pause for a beat. David's confidence wavered. His carefully built world shook. Fame and fortune suddenly felt empty, like shadows chasing the sun. A battle roared inside him, a fierce fight between the hunger for glory and a sudden, unexplored need to make things right. The crowd moved again, rushing by, oblivious to the storm brewing on the sidewalk. David looked back at Marcus, searching for an answer in the eyes that had seen too much pain to forget. What choice would he make? Could he turn away from everything he's built? Or risk losing it all, chasing a future no one promised? The city whispered its secrets, the night waiting for David to decide. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The city held its breath around David and Mar. A sharp, metallic clang rang out just a few feet away. A construction crane collapsed, metal screeching against stone, sending debris spiraling like confetti in a twisted parade. Searing panic washed over the crowd. People screamed, their voices merging into a chaotic orchestra of fear. David's heart raced as he instinctively grabbed Marcus's arm, pulling him closer. The world tilted, and for a fleeting moment, all the ambition, dreams, and wealth evaporated like morning mist. The noise, the dust, it invaded David's senses, choking, blinding. He squinted against the cloud, but couldn't see anything beyond the chaos. The thick air felt heavy. And then, beneath the din, a cry cut through. A familiar voice. "David, help!" There it was, unmistakable, sharp against the tumult. It was his sister, Sarah. His breath hitched. "Sarah!" He tore free from Marcus and pushed through the fray, dodging panicked bodies. The streets had come alive, but in the worst way. Crowds surged like waves, crashing against one another, unaware of the tragedy unfolding just beyond their bubble. In the midst of the chaos, he spotted her, a figure crumpled at the foot of the fallen crane, shadowed and broken. The sight knocked the wind from his lungs. The reality of his carefully curated world shattered with every desperate step he took toward her. "Sarah!" he called again, adrenaline pumping. Each step felt like a struggle against the tide. She looked up at him. Blood streaked across her forehead, eyes wide with fear and pain. I'm here, he panted, falling to his knees beside her, hands shaking as he examined her injuries. "Are you okay? What happened?" He pressed trembling fingers to her arm, searching for warmth through the shock. But then, that recognition washed over him again. Marcus stood just beyond, watching. The man's admiration now mixed with something deeper, an understanding of grief and loss, something that twisted the knife deeper in David's gut. "Why were you here?" he hissed, his tone sharp. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was no coincidence, as if the weave of their lives had tangled tighter at the worst moment. Marcus's eyes darkened. "I came to find you, to warn you." The words hung heavy in the air, the weight of fate bearing down hard. David's pulse quickened. "Warn me? About what?" Suddenly, a figure emerged from the rubble. A police officer, his face pale, rushing toward them, his radio crackling. "We need to move back. All of you, stay clear." The urgency in his voice sent a jolt through David. With every passing second, the situation warped into something darker. Sarah gasped, her eyes darting past David to the officer. "Not just the crane. It's the meeting. The investors, they've got something planned." The world stopped again. What investors? Was Sarah involved in something he didn't know? What did she mean? David's heart thudded like a drum, each beat echoing panic. "What are you talking about? You can't just—" But she gripped his hand tightly. "David, listen. There's something they're hiding. Something about the company. About you." She was losing consciousness. Her voice faded, swallowed by the chaos around them. Then, in a moment that seemed to hang impossibly suspended, David looked at Marcus. A shiver of revelation coursed through him. Was Marcus somehow tied to this? What if he knew more about Sarah than he was letting on? The pieces began to swirl, merging and jumbling in his brain. Fear clawed at his insides. All those dreams, those sacrifices, could they really be built on lies? The weight of the unknown pressed down on him. The city continued its chaotic dance around the unfolding drama. What happened next? What truth lay buried beneath the rubble of lies? David stood, heart racing, as the bustling crowd pulsed around him. The weight of Marcus's question hung heavy in the air. What was success if it cost him his soul? It echoed in his mind, drowning out the city's cacophony. His eyes searched Marcus's face, desperation clawing at his throat. Could he face the truth? The truth that buried deep inside him? Just then, a loud crash shattered the moment. A car careened onto the sidewalk, tires screeching, metal grating against stone. People screamed, scrambling for safety as the vehicle barreled forward. Time slowed. David's instincts kicked in. He pushed Marcus aside, adrenaline driving him. The car swerved, dangerously close, and his heart slammed against his chest. It felt like a scene from a movie, surreal and horrifying. In the chaos, David locked eyes with the driver. But it wasn't just any driver. It was someone he recognized. A figure from the shadows of his past. Someone he thought he'd never see again. Samantha, his estranged sister. She looked frantic, wild-eyed, a ghost of their shared youth. "Vive!" she screamed, panic breaking through the din. "Get back!" Without thinking, he ran towards the vehicle, fear propelling him forward. The world around him faded, leaving only Samantha's desperate gaze. What had happened to her? Why was she here, on this street, in a car heading straight for them? A burst of chaos erupted as the vehicle collided with a storefront, glass shattering like crystalline rain. David didn't stop. He was already at the driver's door, pulling it open, his own life a distant thought. Samantha gasped, trembling. "David, I need your help," she cried, voice raw, breathless. There was something frantic in her eyes, a darkness whispering secrets. "Help?" he echoed, confusion spreading like vines in his stomach. "What do you mean? You're driving a car into a store!" But before she could respond, a loud siren wailed in the distance, growing closer, drowning out the sounds of the disarray. It was then that David noticed a flash of something in the passenger seat. A briefcase, half open, filled with cash and papers. It glimmered ominously, like a beacon of trouble. The sirens grew louder, people gaping, pointing in horror. His heart sank as he pieced the fragments together. In that moment, everything twisted. Samantha had been mixed up in something he couldn't yet grasp, a web of lies and danger. "David." She reached for him, but her voice wavered. It wasn't just panic, it was a plea wrapped in terror. "They're coming for me." Before he could process the weight of her words, a heavy shadow fell over them. A group of men, sharply dressed, emerged from the alley across the street. Their faces were hard, filled with intent, eyes locked onto Samantha. David's gut twisted. Who were they? "Run!" he shouted, pulling her into a side alley. The noise of chaos fading behind them. Heart pounding, he glanced back, fear radiating through him. But Samantha's expression shifted, a chilling calm settling in her eyes. "David," she said, voice low and steady, There's something I have to tell you, something you don't know about our family." The words hung like a blade. What truth could change everything? His breath hitched. For a moment, the world narrowed down to that moment. The looming danger, the furious questions boiling inside him. What had he stepped into? What secrets had he lived with, never knowing? The city whispered its secrets. Time rolled on. David faced a storm he hadn't anticipated, his choices just beginning to fracture. And the defining moment of his life loomed ahead like a shadow. David held Samantha's gaze, stunned. "What do you mean?" he asked, breath hitching. The sirens wailed closer. Anxiety throbbed in his veins. Something dark lingered in the shadows, and for just a moment, the world seemed to close in around them. "David, please," she breathed. "You don't understand what's been happening." She glanced back, dread pooling in her eyes. They had to keep moving, but her voice trembled. "I found out about the investors. The company. It's all tied to our father." His heart raced. "What are you talking about? Our father?" Before she could answer, something shattered beside them. A trash can exploded, metal curling, flames licking the air. The crowd gasped, scattering like leaves in a storm. David gripped Samantha's arm tighter, a surge of instinct pushing him to shield her. "Just stay close," he yelled above the chaos, his heart pounding. "We can talk later." But her face paled, real terror creeping in. "No, David, it's worse than that." Just then, a figure emerged from the crowd. A man, tall with a weary face, eyes sharp as knives. He wore an expensive suit, but there was a wildness about him. "Samantha, get down!" he shouted, rushing toward them, arms outstretched. David's instincts flared. "Who are you?" he demanded, stepping between Samantha and the stranger. "David, move!" Samantha yelled, panic spilling from her. And then it clicked. This was the man in the flashback from her childhood. The one David had thought was dead. The one connected to the rumors, the whispers they had grown up with. Before he could process anything, the man swept Samantha behind him, shielding her. "There's no time," he warned. "They're coming." Time slammed to a stop. A crackling sound filled the air. A voice, cold and menacing, echoed from the shadows. "You thought you could escape, didn't you?" David turned, eyes wide. Figures materialized from the chaos. Sharp suits, unsmiling faces, men in masks. They were moving toward them, calculating, focused. They looked like the devils from nightmares, too well dressed for the horror that danced in their eyes. "What do you want?" David shouted, desperation clawing at his throat. But it was Samantha who took charge. "You don't know the whole truth, David." "About Dad! About everything!" Her voice broke, raw and urgent. He was involved with them. The words reached inside him, wrenching at memories he thought were buried. Images of late-night meetings, hushed voices, the scent of danger in the air. "What do you mean?" he breathed, fingers trembling. Just then, one of the masked men stepped forward, menacingly cool. "It's too late for that. Your father's legacy isn't what you think. He was never the man you idolized." The man paused, a cruel smile creeping onto his lips. "He betrayed everything, even family." David's chest tightened. One word pulled the ground from beneath him. Betrayal. It echoed in his mind like a gunshot. He could feel the blood rushing to his ears, drowning out everything else. "No!" he yelled, panic surging. He wouldn't! But something in the man's face told David he was right. A cold truth he had avoided all his life now swelled, ready to burst. Samantha met his eyes, sorrow swirling within her. "David, please. We have to move. There's more at stake than just us here." The masked group advanced, their intention clear. The man with the hard face spoke again, his voice like ice. "You're part of this now, whether you like it or not. It's not just about survival, it's about legacy. Your legacy." The realization hit like a punch. David's world tilted. All those dreams, everything he'd worked for, standing on shaky ground. Would he ever escape the shadows of his father's decisions? David's heart raced. No longer just a game, it was survival now. His family, his life, it was tangled in a web more dangerous than he'd imaginado. What would he choose in the face of this chaos? The truth closed in like a vice, and he knew within him nothing would ever be the same again. "David!" Samantha's voice pierced through the confusion. "We can't stay here, not now." But the darkness loomed, and he felt the threads of his past tighten around him. What legacy would he claim if the truth could shatter everything? David looked back at Marcus, the words swirling in his mind like a storm. Just when he thought he had his answer, everything shifted. A loud crash echoed from across the street, slicing through the noise of the city. Heads turned. People gasped. From the corner of his eye, David caught a glimpse of a large truck careening out of control. Tires squealing, metal screaming. The massive vehicle collided with a lamppost, sending shards of glass and metal flying. Smoke billowed out, swirling into the evening air. "Get back!" someone yelled, panic ringing out like a siren. Instinct took over. Without thinking, David lunged, grabbing Marcus's arm, yanking him to safety. They stumbled back just as a cloud of debris exploded around them. When the chaos faded, the street had transformed. Glass crunched underfoot. Sirens blared in the distance. "Are you okay?" David shouted, his heart racing, adrenaline pumping through his veins. Marcus nodded, but his eyes were wild, scanning the scene. People were rushing, shouting, trying to assess the damage, help the injured. David's thoughts were still jumbled, but now there was a pressing urgency that gripped him. In the whirlwind of panic, a figure emerged from the smoke. A woman, clothes disheveled, hair wild. Her eyes locked onto David's, recognition sparking a chill down his spine. She moved closer, trembling, then pointed a shaky finger. "David," she gasped, "you need to know. It's about your father." The world around him blurred. David's heart dropped. He hadn't thought about his father in years, the man whose choices had left scars deeper than the concrete beneath his feet. "What do you mean?" David's voice came out rough, strained. "Everything they said about the scandal, it's not what it seems." The onlookers were hushed now, intrigued, their murmurs hanging in the air. David felt the weight of their eyes, felt the scrutiny like a spotlight. "He didn't do it. He was set up," the woman pressed, her eyes pleading, raw. "And Marcus, he knows. He knows the truth." David turned to Marcus, shock twisting his stomach. The moment of uncertainty passed like a shadow. He could feel the connection between them, shifting, morphing into something unexplainable. "You were involved?" David's voice trembled. "I didn't have a choice," Marcus replied, pain etched in his features. "I tried to protect him, but they buried the evidence. They buried us both." David's world tilted again, and the realization crashed in waves. Everything he had built, his wealth, his empire, was based on a lie. That his father had been innocent. That Marcus, standing next to him, held a key to a door he never thought he'd open. "Can you prove it?" David's voice was barely a whisper now. "I can try," Marcus breathed, urgency crackling between them. Just then, a second explosion rocked the street. Chaos erupted once more, but this time it felt different. David's resolve flickered, then sparked. He could either run back to the safety of his facade or dive headfirst into the unknown, the truth. The sirens blared louder, the air thick with smoke, panic, and possibility. What would he choose? What was the price of salvation? Time froze as David stood at the precipice of change. Everything he thought he knew hanging in the balance. The night waited, heavy with secrets, as shadows moved in the fading light. David looked back at Marcus, heart pounding like a war drum. The words hung heavy between them, but suddenly the moment fractured. A loud bang erupted from the street corner. The world jolted. Glass shattered. A truck, reckless and wild, careened into the crowd. The sound mixed with screams, splintering the air, drowning out the city's buzz. David turned instinctively as chaos unfolded. People scattered like leaves in a storm. The truck plowed through the sidewalk, metal grinding against asphalt. A beast gone mad. Panic rippled in waves, faces twisted in terror. David moved forward, driven by an impulse beyond fear. "Get back!" he yelled, pushing toward the rushing bodies. He didn't know why, but every instinct urged him to protect. Yet in that split second, as he rushed forward, he caught a glimpse of Marcus, frozen in place, eyes wide. "Marcus!" David screamed, but the roar of the engine swallowed his voice. Without thinking, David lunged, gripping Marcus's arm, pulling him back. Together they stumbled away from the chaos. The truck, finally grinding to a halt, left a wave of destruction that sent shockwaves through the crowd. Silence blanketed the aftermath, a sharp contrast to the previous chaos. People were dazed, some lying on the ground. David felt the knot in his chest tighten again. Heavier now, he turned to Marcus, who had turned pale, the cold expression gone, replaced by something deeper, fear mixed with disbelief. As sirens blared in the distance, Marcus uttered a single chilling word. "Fake." "Fake," David echoed, breathless. His heart raced for a different reason now. "Everything. This city, your life, it's all a lie, David." This was meant to happen. Before David could respond, Marcus pulled away suddenly, stepping back. The rush of adrenaline made it hard to focus. Was he hearing right? "What do you mean? That truck wasn't just an accident. It's connected to you, to your past. They're coming for you, and for the truth." Marcus's voice wavered, heat rising in his tone. "You think you're untouchable, but there are eyes everywhere." David's stomach dropped. What truth? He felt the foundations of his world trembling, and in that instant, everything shifted. David no longer felt like the invincible millionaire, beneath the polished surface, cracks were forming. He'd spent his life believing he was fighting for everything good, yet here stood Marcus, a man from another life, speaking riddles that ignited fear. A murmur from the crowd interrupted him. Someone had fallen, a shadow too still on the ground. David's heart raced as he realized it was one of the bystanders, a woman with a familiar face. The truth exploded in his mind, the whispers of his past. "David," Marcus pointed. "You recognize her, don't you? She knows." David's blood ran cold. This woman was tied to everything. The scandal, the darkness that chased him. She lay there, unconscious, but her presence loomed larger than life. "We have to help her," Marcus said, urgency replacing fear. "No!" David forced himself to yell, voice trembling. "We can't! I can't go back! But the sirens grew louder, and something dawned on him. The life he built, the success, it all felt like a facade now, ready to crumple like the glass that had shattered. Could he turn away? Or was this the moment he would finally face the demons lurking in his past? The crowd buzzed with confusion. David's heart pounded, weighing every choice against the truth Marcus had thrown at him. And then a voice shouted from the distance, a reminder that some truths are harder to swallow than others. Someone's going to pay for this. His mind raced. What choice would he make? Would he unmask the lies buried deep within, or let the shadows of his past swallow him whole? The city's pulse echoed, alive with questions, and David was left standing at the crossroads of everything he thought he knew. David stood frozen, the words hanging between him and Marcus. The city pulsed around them, but in this moment it felt like time had stopped. He was torn, caught up in the strange gravity of Marcus's gaze. Then came a sudden shout. "Hey, get away from him!" A voice cut through the chatter, sharp and urgent. It was a man with slick hair, wearing a designer suit. He rushed toward them, face twisted with anger. David didn't recognize him, but could feel the hostility radiating off him like heat from pavement. "Just talking," David said, raising his hands as if to defuse the situation. But the man stepped closer, his jaw clenched tight. "What's a millionaire doing talking to a filthy beggar?" His voice dripped with disdain. The crowd began to slow, curious eyes glancing over, whispers rising. David felt their judgment like ice on his skin. Marcus remained calm, unwavering. "I'm not invisible," he said to the man, then turned back to David and leaned in closer. "Listen, you can change your world. Step away from this false throne." "Enough!" The man lunged forward, grabbing Marcus by the collar and yanking him to his feet. "You're nothing. Just a stain on this city." David's heart raced. He felt guilt and empathy swell inside him, alongside fear. "Let him go," he shouted, stepping forward, fists clenched. But before they could react, a loud crash shattered the tension. A glass window high above exploded, raining shards like crystals. The crowd screamed, scattering like startled pigeons. David ducked, instinctively shielding his face. Pandemonium erupted. People rushed by, their faces painted with horror. The man released his grip on Marcus, stumbling back. David's instincts kicked in. His mind swirled, thoughts racing. Was it an accident or worse? Then he saw it. A figure in black darting away from the building's entrance. A woman, a hood covering her face, moving fast. "Stop her!" David shouted, adrenaline propelling him forward. The crowd parted, but she was already lost in the chaos. Marcus was back on the ground, breathing heavily. "You need to know the truth about everything," he gasped, eyes crazy with intensity. "They're coming for you." "What are you talking about?" David asked, panic clawing at his chest. He felt exposed, like every secret he had hidden was suddenly thrust into daylight. "Your father!" Marcus started, but the man lunged at him again, furious. "Shut up!" he spat, voice thick as he shoved Marcus back. "You don't know what you're messing with." David's heart thudded. He didn't need to hear more of Marcus's half-finished sentence. Tension buzzed in the air. He could feel the heaviness, the stakes shifting underfoot. This was more than a mere confrontation on the sidewalk. Then everything changed. An explosion rocked the street, shattering nearby storefronts. Glass erupted, debris flying. Friends, enemies, even strangers became shadows as chaos swallowed them whole. David lost his footing, hit the ground hard. As the smoke hung heavy in the air, he saw it, the brief flash of a familiar face within the cloud. Eyes filled with haunting familiarity. His blood ran cold. It couldn't be! "Get up!" Marcus yelled, pulling David from the floor. "They're here for you!" The world spun. Questions exploded in his mind like the shattered glass. Who were they? Why did they want him? Who was that woman? As sirens echoed in the distance, David felt the ground beneath him shift. Everything he thought he knew about his life shattered in an instant. Suddenly, nothing made sense anymore, except the frantic urgency in Marcus's eyes. David felt lost, his heart racing, unsure of the path ahead. In the depth of chaos, he realized one truth. Nothing would ever be the same again. David stood frozen, the words hanging between him and Marcus. The city pulsed around them, but in this moment it felt like time had stopped. He was torn, caught up in the strange gravity of Marcus's gaze. Then came a sudden shout. "Hey, get away from him!" A voice cut through the chatter, sharp and urgent. It was a man with slick hair wearing a designer suit. He rushed toward them, face twisted with anger. David didn't recognize him, but could feel the hostility radiating off him like heat from pavement. "What's a millionaire doing talking to a filthy beggar?" His voice dripped with disdain. The crowd began to slow, curious eyes glancing over, whispers rising. David felt their judgment like ice on his skin. Marcus remained calm, unwavering. "I'm not invisible," he said to the man before turning back to David. "Listen, you can change your world. Step away from this false throne." "Enough!" The man lunged forward, grabbing Marcus by the collar and yanking him to his feet. "You're nothing, just a stain on this city." David's heart raced. He felt guilt and empathy swell inside him, alongside fear. "Let him go!" he shouted, stepping forward, fists clenched. But before they could react, a loud crash shattered the tension. A glass window, high above, exploded, raining shards like crystals. The crowd screamed, scattering like leaves in a storm. David ducked, instinctively shielding his face. Pandemonium erupted. The truck, reckless and wild, careened into the crowd. The sound mixed with panic, faces twisted in terror. David moved forward, driven by an impulse beyond fear. "Get back!" he yelled, pushing toward the rushing bodies. He didn't know why, but every instinct urged him to protect. Yet in that split second, as he rushed forward, he caught a glimpse of Marcus, frozen in place, eyes wide. "Marcus!" David screamed, but the roar of the engine swallowed his voice. Without thinking, David lunged, gripping Marcus's arm, pulling him back. Together, they stumbled away from the chaos. The truck finally ground to a halt, leaving a wave of destruction that sent shockwaves through the crowd. Silence blanketed the aftermath, a sharp contrast to the previous chaos. People were dazed, some lying on the ground. David felt the knot in his chest tighten again, heavier now. He turned to Marcus, who winced, his face pale. As sirens rang in the distance, Marcus uttered a single chilling word. "Fake." "Fake?" David echoed, breathless. "Everything, this city, your life, it's all a lie, David. This was meant to happen." Before David could respond, a figure emerged from the smoke. A tall man in dark clothing. David squinted, a chill running down his spine. It was someone he recognized. His missing brother, Jason, who had vanished years ago under mysterious circumstances. "Jason?" David's voice trembled. Shock turned his world upside down. "You're alive?" "Of course I am," Jason replied, looking between David and Marcus, with a mix of anger and confusion. "But it's not about me. It's about you, about everything your father did, the deals he made." As the crowd recoiled, David felt the weight of history slam into him. Jason took a step closer, his voice low and urgent. "They've been watching you for so long, David. It's all connected. The scandal, the truck, this moment." "What do you mean?" David stammered, glancing at Marcus, whose expression was unreadable. "Your father's real legacy wasn't wealth or success. It was betrayal," Jason hissed, eyes piercing. "He used you as a pawn, and they never let you see the truth." The air grew heavy. David felt the ground beneath him shift, the revelation like a noose tightening around his throat. Jason's return shattered everything he thought he knew, twisting relationships, revealing devastation that was spun deeper than he could fathom. "If you don't figure this out now, they will take everything from you. They want what's rightfully yours, your legacy," Jason said, and in that moment, nothing felt safe anymore. Every piece of his world swirled like smoke, hiding a truth he had never wanted to see. And as the sirens drew nearer, David stood there, mind racing, heart pounding on the edge of chaos. What if everything was a lie? What price would he pay for the truth? David stood frozen, the words hanging between him and Marcus. The city pulsed around them, but in this moment, it felt like time had stopped. He was torn, caught up in the strange gravity of Marcus's gaze. Then came a sudden shout. "Hey, get away from him!" A voice cut through the chatter, sharp and urgent. It was a man with slick hair, wearing a designer suit. He rushed toward them, face twisted with anger. David didn't recognize him, but could feel the hostility radiating off him like heat from pavement. "What's a millionaire doing talking to a filthy beggar?" His voice dripped with disdain. The crowd began to slow, curious eyes glancing over, whispers rising. David felt their judgment like ice on his skin. Marcus remained calm, unwavering. I'm not invisible, he said to the man before turning back to David. Listen, you can change your world. Step away from this false throne. Enough. The man lunged forward, grabbing Marcus by the collar and yanking him to his feet. You're nothing, just a stain on this city. David's heart raced. He felt guilt and empathy swell inside him, alongside fear. Let him go, he shouted, stepping forward, fists clenched. But before they could react, a loud crash shattered the tension. A glass window, high above, exploded, raining shards like crystals. The crowd screamed, scattering like leaves in a storm. David ducked, instinctively shielding his face. Pandemonium erupted. The truck, reckless and wild, careened into the crowd. The sound mixed with panic, faces twisted in terror. David moved forward, driven by an impulse beyond fear. Get back, he yelled, pushing toward the rushing bodies. He didn't know why, but every instinct urged him to protect. Yet in that split second, as he rushed forward, he caught a glimpse of Marcus, frozen in place, eyes wide. Marcus! David screamed. But the roar of the engine swallowed his voice. Without thinking, David lunged, gripping Marcus's arm, pulling him back. Together, they stumbled away from the chaos. The truck finally ground to a halt, leaving a wave of destruction that sent shockwaves through the crowd. Silence blanketed the aftermath, a sharp contrast to the previous chaos. People were dazed, some lying on the ground. David felt the knot in his chest tighten again, heavier now. He turned to Marcus, who winced, his face pale. As sirens rang in the distance, Marcus uttered a single chilling word. Fake. Fake? David echoed, breathless. Everything. This city. Your life. It's all a lie, David. This was meant to happen. Before David could respond, a figure emerged from the smoke, a tall man in dark clothing. David squinted, a chill running down his spine. It was someone he recognized, his missing brother, Jason, who had vanished years ago under mysterious circumstances. Jason? David's voice trembled. Shock turned his world upside down. You're alive? Of course I am, Jason replied, looking between David and Marcus with a mix of anger and confusion. But it's not about me. It's about you, about everything your father did, the deals he made. As the crowd recoiled, David felt the weight of history slam into him. Jason took a step closer, his voice low and urgent. They've been watching you for so long, David. It's all connected. The scandal, the truck, this moment. What do you mean? David stammered, glancing at Marcus, whose expression was unreadable. Your father's real legacy wasn't wealth or success. It was betrayal, Jason hissed, eyes piercing. He used you as a pawn, and they never let you see the truth. The air grew heavy. David felt the ground beneath him shift, the revelation, like a noose tightening around his throat. Jason's return shattered everything he thought he knew, twisting relationships, revealing devastation that was spun deeper than he could fathom. If you don't figure this out now, they will take everything from you. They want what's rightfully yours, your legacy, Jason said, and in that moment, nothing felt safe anymore. Every piece of his world swirled like smoke, hiding a truth he had never wanted to see. And as the sirens drew nearer, David stood there, mind racing, heart pounding on the edge of chaos. What if everything was a lie? What price would he pay for the truth? And just when he thought he grasped the tangled web around him, a deafening blast rocked the street, the sound of a bomb detonating, throwing him and Marcus to the ground. As the dust settled, David looked up, heart pounding. The world felt different. Marcus's face was pale, but there was something more. An intensity, a purpose transforming his features. David, this is bigger than you know. It's about survival now. Before David could respond, Marcus's eyes flashed with understanding. They've known all along, and it's all been planned. We're all pawns in their game. David's breath hitched, realization crashing over him. Somewhere, someone watched, someone who knew everything. And then it hit him. The woman in the crowd, the one who'd warned him. What had she meant about their father? What had Jason discovered? Jason was still on the ground, but in that moment, David saw the truth in Marcus's eyes. Desperation, fear, yes, but also clarity. We need to go, now! David hesitated, heart racing, as uncertainty flooded in. He didn't know who to trust. He didn't know what was real. But as the sirens drew closer, and the echoes of the exploding truth settled around him, he realized he had to choose. What if everything he'd known was a lie? What if Marcus or Jason or even Sarah were tangled in something that could destroy him? The shadows danced around him, and in that moment, every decision carried the weight of betrayal. The city watched, breathless. He was standing on the edge of everything, and he was about to jump into the unknown. David stood there, breathless, as chaos swirled around him. The smoke hung heavy in the air, the acrid scent mixing with fear. Sirens pierced the night as Jason spoke, his voice rising above the panic. We need to act fast. They won't stop. They know you're here, Jason warned, his urgency sharp. They're coming for you, David. We have to expose them before it's too late. David felt his heart pound violently against his chest. Time felt twisted, every second stretching into eternity. He glanced back at Marcus, who shook his head, fear shining in his eyes. You don't have to do this alone, David, but you need to trust us. Trust. That word lingered in the air, heavy and thick. Could he trust this family he barely understood? The stakes were too high. The man in the suit had been right. They were all just puppets in a game. But did he want to be the one holding the strings? Let's go, he shouted, pushing through the crowd, feeling Jason close behind. They hurried towards a dark alley, a way to escape the chaos. The city felt alive, each heartbeat matched by pounding footsteps of a terrified crowd. Where to? Jason asked, his eyes darting around, scanning their surroundings. To the subway station, David said, determination pushing him forward. We can get underground. No one will find us there. As they reached the station entrance, another explosion echoed in the distance. Windows shattered again, the sound sending a wave of panic through the gathered people. They were running from ghosts, running from the past that threatened to consume them. The subway station was dim, fluorescent lights flickering unsteadily. David felt the cold air rush around him. Hope and fear battled within him. As they descended the stairs, a shadow shifted nearby. Wait! A voice hissed, It was Marcus, his expression frantic. "Don't go down there. They're waiting for you." "What do you mean?" David turned, heart racing. "They want you to come to them. They're using the chaos to trap you." Marcus replied urgently. "We have to outsmart them." Suddenly, a train roared into the station, rattling the ground beneath them. David felt a rush of uncertainty surge through him. But beneath that was something else. A flicker of resolve. He wasn't running anymore, not just for survival, but toward the cruel truth that had haunted him, the shadow of his father's legacy. "Together," he said, looking between Marcus and Jason, "we'll find the truth. We'll expose everything." The three of them pushed through the crowd, a united front forged in the fire of their fear. With the train's doors whooshing open, they stepped inside. A weight lifted as their eyes locked with determination. If they wanted answers, they had to plunge into the chaos head first, as the door shut, sealing them away from the chaos outside. David felt a wave of clarity wash over him. This was it, the chance to reclaim his life, to uncover the truth that lay beneath the rubble of lies. But as the train sped through the dark tunnels, the weight of what lay ahead sat heavy on his shoulders. The city echoed outside, whispers of betrayal and revelation swirling in the air. Would they find the answers they sought, or would the shadows of their past drag them down? And as the lights flickered on the train, David's heart raced, anticipation mingling with dread. What awaited them in the depths of the city? The future was uncertain, a looming specter of possibility. But before diving further into this gripping journey, I need you to take action. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us continue delivering these epic tales. And don't wait even a second longer to share. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let's hear your thoughts, and make sure to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.